Hi, in this video I'm gonna show you how you can solve some types of 11 plus questions which involve calculations with numbers using very rudimentary and simple algebra. And as usual, we can best explain this with the help of some examples. The first example I have is 1/5 of a number is 9 bigger than 1/8 of that number. What is the number? Okay, whenever we're using algebra, we will designate the number that we don't know with some variable, or we give the letter, say n. So 1/5 of n, I can write it as 1/5 of n, which is the same as n over 5. So we have 1/5 of n, which is this, is 9 bigger than 1/8 of n. And 1/8 of n, I write it as n over 8. Because 1/8 of n is the same as n over 8, because 1/8 of n is the same as 1 over 8 times n, which becomes n over 8. So what we do now from here on is just algebraic procedure. We want every term in our equation which involves the unknown n on the left-hand side. Okay, n over 5 is already on the left-hand side, so I'll leave that as is there. I'll bring n over 8 to the left-hand side. The sign changes because this is plus, this is a positive 1 over 8, so this becomes minus n over 8, and this is 9. Now this I can write combining the fractions as 1 over 5 minus 1 over 8 of n is equal to 9. So 1/5 of n minus 1/8 of n becomes like this. 1/5 minus 1/8 of n is equal to 9. Here the common denominator is 40, and this becomes 40 divided by 5 is 8 times 1 is 8. 40 divided by 8 is 5 times 1 is minus 5. All of it of n, put the bracket there as well. This becomes 9. If I now continue up here, I get 5 minus 8 is 3. So I have 3 over 40 of n is equal to 9. 3 over 40 times n is the same as 3n over 40. And this is equal to 9. And I can always write a whole number as a fraction. I can write 9 as 9 over 1. The reason I'm writing both sides as a fraction is that now I can use cross multiplication, which means I multiply this numerator by that denominator and equate it to this denominator times that numerator. That's what cross multiplication is. That's why we call it cross multiplication, because we're going across diagonally. So 3n times 1 becomes 3n, and this is 40 times 9. So 3n becomes 9 times 4, 360. And so n will be equal to 360 divided by 3, which we can write it like that. Because this fraction means 360 divided by 3, and this is equal to 120. So this is how we basically solve the questions like above using simple algebra. And I've tried to give a little bit of extra information here. When we get to this stage, when we have 3n is equal to 40 times 9, what I did here, I multiplied 40 times 9 to get the 360, and then I divided by 3. I could have written this as n is equal to 40 times 9 all divided by 3. Now, instead of going through the multiplication of 40 times 9 to get the 360, I know that 9 and 3 have a common factor, which is 3. So this cancels the 3. And I get here in the numerator just 40 times 3, and this gives me 120. I only mention this because sometimes it is easier if we can simplify this expression. It avoids having to first multiply the two larger numbers together and then dividing again. So this simplifying fractions when we can is always useful. Okay, another question says, I think of a number when I take 1/3 of the number from 3/4 of the number, I get 20. What is the number? Okay, in this case, we can assume the number again. We assume the number is p. It could be any letter. I'm just using p because I got tired of using n all the time. Quite often in algebra we use x, but when people see x get scared, so I'm using p. Anyway, when I take 1/3 of the number from 3/4, that means 3/4 of p, and I take away 1/3 of. So these two expressions means I'm taking away 1/3 of the number from 3/4 of the number. I'm translating what I have in words into a mathematical equation. So 1/3 of the number take away from 3/4, I get 20. What is the number? From here on, we just do a simple algebraic process. We say this is 3/4 minus 1/3. So 3/4 minus 1/3 of p. This is equal to 20. This becomes, common denominator is 12. Divided by 4 is 3 times 3. This becomes 9. This becomes minus 3, 4. Because 12 divided by 3 is 4 times 1. And, excuse me, and this becomes equal to 20. So 4 minus 9 is 5. So I have 5 divided by 12 is equal to, times p. Times p is equal to 20. So here p, I can do this many ways. Let's do it this way. I say p is equal to 20 divided by 5/12. This is the same as 20 multiplied by reciprocal of 5/12. We inverted 12/5. Which means this is equal to 20 divided by 4 will be 4. Well, if I write this as a fraction, this will be 20 times 12/5. 5 and 20 cancel, the 5 and this cancel 4 here. I get the answer is 48. So 48 is the number that I'm looking for, and we can always check. If I take 3/4 of 48 becomes 36, and 1/3 of 48 is 16, and we see that 36 is 20 bigger than 16. That is 16 here. Let's excuse the handwriting here. What I've done here in this box is just to show you that when we got to this stage, 5 over 12p is equal to 20, I continued by dividing p by this fraction, which meant we inverted the fraction and multiplied. But we could have easily done, using cross multiplication, we could have said 5p over 12 is equal to 20 over 1. Cross multiplication gives me 1 times 5p, which is 5p is equal to 12 times 20, which is 240. And then p is equal to 240 divided by 5, which is 448. Either way, we arrive at the correct solution. Here I have this question. Tom thinks of a number. He multiplies the number by 3. Then he adds 6 and divides the result by 5. He gets 12. What was the number? Again, we do the same thing. Once you do one or two of these questions, they become easy to know what the procedure to adopt is. So the number I always think is n. So n is the number, and he first multiplies it by 3. So if I multiply n by 3, I get 3n. Then he adds 6. So I add 6 to it. Then he divides the result by 5. Now be careful. It says divides the result by 5. So this is 3n plus 6. All of it divided by 5. It is different to 3n plus 6 divided by 5. So be careful. You read what the question says. It says he multiplies by 3, then adds 6, and then divides the result of 3n plus 6 by 5, and he gets 12. Okay, here I can write this 12 as 12 over 1. I have a fraction, 2 fractions equal. I cross multiply. 1 times 3n plus 6 is 3n plus 6. Doesn't change anything. 5 times 12, which gives me 60. So I have 3n plus 6 is equal to 60. 3n is equal to 60 minus 6. I take the plus 6, move it to the left hand side, the sign changes, and I have on the left side only left a term involving the unknown, which is the 3n term. So 3n will be equal to 60 minus 6, which is 54, and therefore n is equal to 54 divided by 3, which will be 18. This is another one. We say it says 3/5 of a number is 27. What is the number? This is fairly simple. Again, the number we choose to be n, and we're saying 3/5 of the number. 3/5 is 3/5 times n is equal to 27. I write this as 27 over 1. And 3/5 of a number is the same as 3 times that number divided by 27 over 1. I cross multiply. 3n times 1 is 3n is equal to 5 times 27. Then I can write 3n is equal to 5 times 27 divided by 3. Now here it's always advisable to simplify if we can, because 5 times 27, this will simplify to 9, and this becomes 45. You could have easily multiplied 5 by 27. Okay, let's do it. If I didn't simplify, let's do this in different colors. If I hadn't simplified, I would get 3n is equal to 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 2 is 10. 35, not 33. 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 2, then it would be 135. And then I would get n is equal to 135 divided by 3, which will give me 45. It's always better to simplify if you can, because it means you don't have to go through this multiplication, multiplying the larger numbers. But recapping again, reading the words, the text of the question, we just assume that the number we're looking for is n, and we apply what's in words into a mathematical equation. 3/5 of the number becomes 3/5 of n is equal to 27. The rest is cross multiplication and finding what the number should be. Now, last question, we have half a number minus 11 is equal to 1/4 of the number. Again, I'll choose my number to be n. Then I say half the number minus 11 is equal to 1/4 of the number, is equal to 1/4 of that number. This could have been worded that half a number is 11 bigger than 1/4 of the number. So depending on how the question is worded, you have to decide how you set your equation up. So here I have half a number minus 11 is equal to 1/4 of the number n. Now we need to have every term that involves n on the left hand side of the equation and all the known numbers, all the known terms on the right hand side. And the way we do that, we move terms from one side to the other, mindful of this fact that the signs will change. So here on the left hand side, I have half n, which remains here. 1/4 of n, I bring from the right hand side to the left hand side. The sign changes, becomes minus 1/4 of n. And this will be equal to minus 11 comes from the left hand side. I take it to the right hand side, becomes 11. Becomes plus 11, but we never, as a standard rule, we don't put the plus when a number is positive. This is the same as taking away 11 from both sides of this equation once, and then taking away 1/4 of an n from both sides. But I always prefer to remember that I just move one term from one side to the other side and change the sign, which is what we've done here. The rest becomes as per normal, as we have half minus 1/4 of n is equal to 11. Here the common denominator is 4. This becomes 2 minus 1 of n. This becomes equal to 11. So I have 1/4 of n is equal to 11, which basically means n over 4 is equal to 11 over 1. Cross multiplication gives n is equal to 4 times 11, which is 44. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Most of these problems can be tackled in the exact same manner. You have to just be careful how you transfer the text of the question into an equation. And the more practice you get at this, the better you'll become at it. If you like this video, please give it a like and click the subscribe button. I will be putting more similar videos to help with your 11+ tests. Thank you.